Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, February 14th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in exactly 200 days. The game against Michigan in 284 days. Today's Valentine's Day, and today we're talking Ohio State safeties. Jim Knowles has talked in the past about the fact that this is a safety-driven defense. Well, this is going to be a safety-driven podcast, and you're going to be hearing directly from Ohio State safeties coach Perry Eliano on the return of Lathan Ransom and Josh Proctor, as well as the emergence of Sonny Styles, the arrival of Jihad Carter, and many, many more topics. You're going to be hearing directly from Eliano from the interviews that we conducted, but we can change a go at this point. So let's start with the return of those two veteran players, Lathan Ransom and Josh Proctor. What does it mean to get two veteran guys back like that in your room?
First and foremost, I love the young men. They've worked extremely hard. Obviously, Lathan coming back. Young men have to understand where they're at, and they got to be comfortable with, there's still more growth for me. There's still more I need to do in order to finish what I started here before I go on to the next level. And Josh is the same. There's some things he wants to finish. There's some things he wants to accomplish as a team as well as individually. And so, but that's their decision. And it's just cool for me to be able to sit down with them and say, hey, Coach, I want to come back. I feel I need to come back. And these are the things that I feel I need to do for the team as well as myself to prepare for this year to win a championship and also next level.
Ransom has been part of a number of very big and very positive plays for Ohio State over the years, but he was also part of the play where Adonai Mitchell of Georgia scored a 76-yard touchdown to cut Ohio State's lead to just 3 in the fourth quarter of that Peach Bowl. Now, how hard is it to bounce back as a player from being a part of a play like that on the bad side? To be able to learn from that, maybe, but also be able to leave it in the rearview mirror.
It's the life we live. Me being a DB myself, you play DB long enough, you're going to get beat, and it's how you respond. Obviously, the magnitude of that game magnifies that specific play. You just bounce back. You got to have a short memory. It's just like a quarterback that throws an interception. You got to bounce back, and really and truthfully, how you respond is going to be the defining, moment and outlook on who you are. One, and first and foremost, as a young man, and then two, as a football player. So obviously it was disappointing, and he's made a million plays, and that was one play that we didn't execute at a high level. And I say we, because I'm very much involved with it as him. And he just bounced back. He's determined to be even better. And that's the thing I love about him. He's resilient, he's tough, and we don't make excuses. We didn't execute the way we needed to, and we're back working to make sure that those things don't happen.
The return of Proctor was something of a surprise, I think, for the Ohio State team and the Ohio State defense this season. He came in as a top 100 overall player way back in 2018. He actually played under Urban Meyer, and then now he's gotten meaningful time in the college football playoff as far back as 2019. So you were probably expecting to have him here on campus for 6 years. So after 5 years for a guy who came in probably expecting to be in Columbus for 3 or 4, how do you keep him engaged and focused?
Relationships, having clear, concise communication, being able to keep everything in perspective, and so, like I said, for him, the opportunity to come back and have a chance to first and foremost win a championship with his brothers, and then two, be a better football player. Continue to develop to be the very best version of himself. So I'm excited, and to see him running around this morning and working out and with a smile on his face, it's encouraging. And, there's a long process within this, but, I've seen good things from him so far.
One big addition for Ohio State this offseason was the addition of Jihad Carter. He played a lot of nickel safety, but a couple other spots for Syracuse in their defensive backfield in recent years as well. So what are his first impressions of Jihad Carter?
Workmanlike. He's got his head down and he's working. Once again, he came here because he wanted to be developed to be the very best. He understands the task that's at hand. It's competition, and the old adage, iron sharpens iron. And so far he's done a great job. He's just put his head down and worked, and that's all I ask. And he came here for a reason. He came here, one, to be the very best he can be, two, to win, a championship, and to put himself in the very best position he can going on to the next level.
Bringing in a veteran safety like Carter is obviously a positive for Ohio State. You give yourself more options in that back end. But it also might send a little bit of a mixed message to some of the younger guys who might have felt, okay, I sort of waited out my year or two and now it's my turn. Well, now they've brought in someone else. So how do you communicate to them? What do you tell those younger guys when you go into the transfer portal and bring in someone who might steal what they thought was going to be their playing time?
I think it's the old adage, iron sharpens iron. You come to Ohio State to be the best. You come to Ohio State to win national championships. You come to Ohio State to play in the National Football League. You come to Ohio State as a DB because we're best in America and the long line of great players that have come through here. So when you step in the door that this is what it is. And each and every year, each and every day, each and every minute, you got to bring your very best. That's what makes us who we are. And for me as the coach to see young men each and every day, like this morning at 6:30 during our running, that guys are grinding, guys are working, there's no substitute for that. So for guys that come here, whether they signed as a freshman or whether they came in as a transfer, they understand the expectations, they understand the magnitude of each and every day. You got to bring it. And I don't want to be anywhere else but a place like that.
One of the guys who is going to be a part of that iron sharpening iron in that safety room is Sonny Styles. He came in last year early enrolling. He should have been a high school senior, and instead he was on the field playing a number of meaningful snaps against Georgia in the Peach Bowl. So at what point did he go from just intriguing talent to a guy they could really use last season?
You earn everything you get here. Nobody's given anything. You earn what you get here. You earn what you get in the secondary. You earn what you get safety room. So there's no handouts. And the thing, like I said, I appreciate most about Sonny is he came in and worked. There was no entitlement. Yeah, he was the number one player and all that, but you would have never thought that the minute he stepped foot in the door. So he earned the right to be on that stage and play the role that he played. And that's just a credit. I tell guys it's not about their age, it's about your mindset. And he has a great mindset, and he's very coachable, and he wants to be the very best he can be. So, what you saw that night was something that he earned. And that would continue to be the case moving forward for all the guys in the room.
Jim Knowles has talked about Sonny Styles as a secret weapon, and the Ohio State coaching staff pretty clearly views him as someone they really have to get on the field. So what sets someone like Sonny Styles apart from the normal college football player?
Yeah, I'm thankful for his mom and dad. A little DNA there, but the thing for Sonny is, he's smart. His football IQ is extremely high to be that young, and that's a credit to, his coach. That's a credit to his dad. That's a credit to his upbringing, and that's a credit to his great focus and discipline. And so the exciting thing is we haven't really even scratched the surface of what he can be, and I can see him being. And so that's what's exciting. That's what's exciting about the offseason right now. That's what's exciting about getting 15 practice of spring ball. That's what's exciting about going into summer, because this is his first spring ball. He didn't have spring ball last year. So, there's a huge ceiling. But the biggest thing I love about him is he's focused, he's humble, and he's locked into taking it one day at a time.
The Ohio State defense was statistically a lot better last year than it had been the previous season, but, and you know what the end of this sentence is, but they gave up some real big plays at very inopportune moments against both Michigan and Georgia in that two-game losing streak to end the season. So what have they gone back and looked at to address those big plays, hopefully moving forward?
It comes down to fundamentals, technique, and execution. Now, as simple as that sounds, it comes down to those three things. And really and truthfully, you watch it, you address it, and then you attack it when we get on the field. And you put them in those very positions the best we can to make sure those things don't happen again. But at the end of the day, probably the most frustrating thing, it came down to those three things. And I know that we're more than capable of doing those things.
Does Eliano feel like maybe they put some guys in spots they might not have been ready for or might not have been comfortable in some of those big plays?
No, those guys had made those plays several times. It just, once again, it came down to a lack of fundamentals, technique, and execution. They weren't put into any situations that they hadn't been put in the past. And they'll tell you that. The one thing we won't ever do, we don't make excuses. We didn't execute the way we needed to, period, point blank. And so a lot of times, with that being said, you can kind of go back and say, well, this, well, that. No, we didn't do that. I didn't prepare them well enough. They didn't execute well enough. And that's why we're here this fall, this spring, this off season, grinding, because, we should have been there. And we should have made those plays. So there'll never be any excuses. I mean, the bottom line is I've got to coach them better, and they've got to execute better, and we will.
In addition to the guys that we talked about earlier who were coming back for that safety room, the Buckeyes are adding some new faces as well. One of them is in-state standout Malik Hartford. He comes out of the Cincinnati area. So Eliano has only gotten to see him just a little bit, but what are his first impressions of Malik Hartford?
Malik's extremely explosive, plays bigger than what he is right now. That's kind of the task that he knows, just being a pro about, putting the weight on. Our nutrition staff's doing a phenomenal job with him. And this, the biggest thing is he's smart. He's got a high football IQ. He's very, very versatile. So we're going to be able to do a lot of things with him. And the cool thing is he's here. He's here working out. He's here, early morning workouts. He's going to get 15 practices in. So I'm excited, on a number of fronts from him, but I've seen great progress from him in these 2 weeks.
We are right now in the winter workouts portion of the football calendar, but spring ball less than a month away. So does Eliano have a decent grasp on where he wants to play guys already, or is that going to be something they're experimenting with guys in different alignments this spring?
I've got a pretty good idea, but also what the spring allows you to do is experiment with some different things, because you're preparing to win the Big Ten, and then you're preparing to go off, and play in the playoffs and win a national championship. So understanding our personnel better, allows you to do that going into year 2 of spring ball. The other thing is they know the system now, so there's some nuances that we can add or subtract, but also you do have a chance to, in the spring, experiment now that they've been around me for a year, I've been around them, they know how I move, I know how they move, and so that's what's exciting for me year 2, spring 2 is having the ability now to say, okay, hey, today, let's do this. Hey, today, let's do this, because it's our job as coaches to kind of have some forethought for what's to come in the future.
One thing that Ohio State has going for it in the defensive backfield is flexibility. They've got guys who might fit in a few different places and guys who have played in a few different places. So how does that help or hurt their plan to put together a defensive backfield for this season?
The versatility. I want guys that can do multiple things. So we can keep the offense. We can keep, who's trying to scout us off balance. Plus, I want to play to our strengths. I want to play to each and every individual's, strengths. And then where they're challenged, you got to continue to bridge the gap there. So that's what's exciting for me. And that's the part of the experimental part in the spring that, hey, there may be days where we try some different things because we do want to play with different combinations to see what fits the best and what's going to give us the very best advantages as we go into fall.
Well, that's going to do it for today. But if you want to have a lot more Ohio State football talk, the place to do it is at BuckeyeHuddle.com. I want to plug something that came out late last week, but that is just an absolutely fantastic feature. That is Alex Gleitman's look at behind-the-scenes stories from the previous recruiting class. So this is a look at the behind-the-scenes stories, sort of what really happened, the stories that can now be told for the offensive side of the ball for the 2023 recruiting class. That is an absolutely fantastic feature, one of my absolute favorites every year. It is up right now on the Huddle board at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And of course, Alex will have the defensive version of that column coming fairly soon. So if you want to be a part of that and read that and get all that insight and analysis from Alex, as well as all the other great insight and analysis you can find at BuckeyeHuddle.com, you should sign up today to become a member. It is the price of a lousy chain store pizza, and you get all that great insight, all that great analysis, and much, much more, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.